Because some people will be like, well, we took a month off. It's like, a month? The kid's 10. You're going to need a little bit more than a month off. You can all be taking a math test, but no one's trying to like rip the pencil out of your hand while you're taking it. Some parents that come in and go, did you shower? Like, no one showers here. They're just wet from all the sweat.
Welcome to the Athletes and Sports Podcast. We got a very special guest today, Josh Levine. Josh has been a longtime friend of ours for the In Sports Foundation. We've been able to collaborate on some different projects and initiatives, but Josh from Bloomington played hockey at Jefferson and started the Fortis Academy, which we'll get into a little bit. But Josh, just tell us maybe how the summer go, because I know you had a lot of athletes in town, college athletes, young athletes, and you probably were just on the ice nonstop with all your summer programs.
Yeah, it's busy. Sometimes we're in, 5 or 7 different locations at one given hour doing different training. We work out of a few different rinks. We work with everyone from, squirts all the way up through professional and collegiate athletes. So our summers are definitely our busiest time. We have a couple gyms. One's at Champions Hall off 169 in Valley View, another one inside the Richfield Ice Arena, and those are both going simultaneously, and then the rinks are also going simultaneously. So we're just juggling a lot of different things at the same time, which makes the summer fun, but also pretty intense.
Yeah, because how many staff do you have now at Fortis?
We have 7 employees, and then in addition to that, we hire about 40 college athletes. Generally in the summer, they're college and high school athletes. During the winter, we have a lot of, sort of ex-collegiate athletes who have a day job but want to coach, 3 or 4 hours a week. Can't commit to coaching maybe a team or something like that. They'll come in and help us, on a weekly basis or even just a monthly basis. They might just work one night a month or something, helping us out.
Yeah.
So there's about 40 of them in the summer. Yeah, so there's a big operation, but it's been slowly over time, as I'm sure you guys know with your guys' business, that it grows slowly over time, so it's manageable. You kind of figure it out and then add a little bit more to it and figure that out. And so we got the process down in terms of how to make sure our plans are all set, the schedules are set, our staffing's set. And we have an operations manager too, Stephanie, who's amazing, and she just makes sure that, everyone's where they need to be when they need to be there. So
definitely. Let's take a little bit step back to your childhood. Now, obviously, you were a hockey player, but were there other sports that you played growing up, and what were those?
Yeah, I played baseball up through about 5th grade, and then I switched to soccer. Played that for a few years, and then dropped soccer. I wish I hadn't, but I did drop soccer in part for hockey. Throughout high school, though, I ran track and field, and I did the 4x1, the 100-meter, and the 200-meter. All the way through my high school years. And I don't know if you can tell watching the podcast, but my legs are really short. So I would go up to the 100-meter start line, and usually the guy checking you in would be like, the shot put, events over there. And I'm like, no, I'm going to try to run this. So, no, I would do track. That was great. It was a nice little cleanse. Hockey was like my main sport in high school, but being able to take a step back, go on the track and sprint was really nice and good for me mentally to just kind of get away from a rink and be outdoors. So I did golf too when I was younger. But those are kind of my main: soccer, hockey, and track and field.
Josh, do you have anybody growing up that like inspired you to play sports, or who are those people that like got you even into youth sports?
Gosh, I remember watching hockey with my dad, and so kind of like seeing that and wanting to play, and my dad played. So I think that piqued my interest in playing hockey. But outside of that, I spent so much time rollerblading and being outside. Our neighborhood had a number of kids in it, and that's how I learned to skate backwards, was rollerblading just in the neighborhood and playing hockey in the summer.
That sounds dangerous.
On the driveway. I know it was. I'm sure it was dangerous. And so I think my mom told me that I was embarrassed to quit. Like I never wanted to stop. But if I just got too tired after like 5 hours, I'd come in and ask her, in 5 minutes, come out and say that I have to go. Because I don't want to tap.
Yeah.
We've been playing all day and I'm gassed. So that's kind of how I think I got into it. It's just, I loved the competition of it. It was free. There was no stress, no pressure. Just that free play, I would say, is something that was big for me in getting into playing sports.
Mm-hmm. And when would you say, like, for hockey, when did it feel more serious? Like, did it?
It got too serious too soon, I would say. I think looking back, it started to feel like it was this thing, kind of a serious thing around 12, 13. And I think it probably could have been pushed back a couple of years, 2 to 3 years before it became that as serious as it did. But that was when, at that time, AAA was kind of starting up more and more. The out-of-town tournaments were kind of becoming a thing. And I just remember at that time kind of like, what happened to my summer? A little bit,
Right.
Like I still had probably a lot more than kids probably even have today. I had plenty of freedom too, but it felt like it was getting overscheduled around then.
Yeah, and it probably is getting even worse now with sports specialization and all these tournaments. And we heard a stat the other day that it was like, if you just let your kids, if they wanted to be good at a sport and you just let them be at home and shoot pucks, like they're going to shoot way more pucks at home than they would if they went to Canada and played in some random tournament.
Oh, well, the statistics on that are absolutely absurd. And at some point, hopefully, parents will be able to like digest this and understand it and then kind of push back. But basically, yeah, you can skip the TSA line here, save the $2,500, and your kid could literally go into the garage, shoot pucks for 30 minutes and stick handle for 10, and they would have done exponentially more than they would have in a 5-game tournament in Connecticut or Toronto or wherever
Right.
they're going. So from a skill development perspective, it's almost mind-boggling. And you're talking about, I think, some of the statistics on it. The best players are maybe holding the puck on their stick for a minute and a half in a game.
Mm-hmm.
What about the players that aren't very good? I mean, goodness. Okay, so you're going up there to what? Touch the puck handle for, you got 5 games. Let's say on the good end, you're stick handling for 5 minutes. On the bad end, you just get in and get rid of it right away.
Right.
2 minutes, a minute. I mean, it's just, it doesn't make sense. And if you watch that, and I'm sure this is true in other sports, but hockey's the sport that I know best. But you watch some of that summer off-season play, and it's not good. I mean, no one's actually playing defense. It's kind of super relaxed on the defensive side. Everyone's having fun on the offensive side, obviously, which makes sense because it's June or whatever. But in terms of becoming a better athlete and a better hockey player, I think we're just missing the mark on a lot of that off-season game focus. And it's pricing kids out of sports too, because a lot of those tournaments, to make money, they have to charge for you to go watch your kid play. So you fly to Nashville to play games that you then have to pay to go watch, which you're already paying to play in. So it's like double pay to play.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like, my son had this football camp this summer. He's 6 years old, and we get up there, and I have to pay $10 per adult to get into this. It's just a moneymaker.
To watch them at camp?
Well, it was a tournament. It was like
Okay.
a tournament, but
Yeah.
it was still like, I wasn't expecting that for a 6-year-old.
No, you want to. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's entertaining to watch them.
Yes,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
love watching
yeah.
my kids,
Yeah, yeah.
but it just shows, like, yeah, sports is a business, and there's probably a lot of people that are priced out of it because they can't go to these extra.
For sure. And there's like a high, information asymmetry between those that put together options and training and camps and clinics and AAA teams or AAU teams or whatever the sport may be, and the parents themselves. And so a lot of times when you talk to parents, it's like they're hearing conflicting advice. And unfortunately, some of the stuff that makes the most money is on the wrong side of the long-term athletic development science. So it's one of those things where the people that are, let's say, arguing for early specialization have a very high interest financially in that working out for them. Mm-hmm. Like that tournament in Nashville could be making 100 to 150K on that weekend. They have a little bit more incentive than we do as like kind of free play or like, let's make sports more affordable. Let's get more kids in the game. Like they're going to have a bit more of an incentive than we are to push that message, to market that message, and to sit down with parents even one-on-one, right? Like it's worth it for some of those operators to sit down with one parent for an hour, because at the end of that, it's a $2,000 check, not okay, I'm going to go let Billy play in the backyard a little bit more than I was otherwise. Right. We don't get paid for that, for arguing that. So that's, kind of the state we're in.
From the In Sports like foundation and the work that you're doing with Fortis, like how do we flip that script so that we can really educate, which you do an incredible job at, is educating these parents that isn't the best for your kid, especially at a young age.
Yes.
Like at the young age, you should not be specializing.
Yeah. So as part of our Fortis Leaders program, as you guys know, we go into associations and we talk to parents. And it sort of feels like a zombie apocalypse where if you've been infected with this ideology that you have to do early as much as possible and specialize, it's really hard to get people to kind of walk back from that because there's so much FOMO. And at that point, everyone's doing it. So then they'll say, well, the best players are doing it. It's like, well, yeah, so are the worst. I mean, pretty much everyone's doing it. So like that's not statistically showing us anything that, oh, Timmy's really good at hockey and he plays year round. So there's that. So I think to change it, we have to actually get in front of parents at the younger ages when the kids are 5, 6, 7, 8, even though some of this stuff starts then. But I think people are more open to really looking at the science and understanding what it means, one. And then two, hopefully over time, we can convince parents that this isn't like, we're not here to just hold hands, sing Kumbaya, and not have good hockey players or not have good soccer players or whatever. We want to help, like Fortis does, we do sports performance training. We work with athletes. We work with college, Olympic, professional athletes. We want to have as many of those as possible coming out of the state of Minnesota. The best way to do that would be to have as many people playing for as long as possible so that then we'll have better athletes. If you constrict that pyramid and you have just a small amount of people being able to play sport, that you're just going to have fewer really good athletes that are coming up and through. And we know if we just widen that base and keep it as wide as possible, we're going to have better athletes. And so convincing parents of that argument's another one. And then providing the programming for that, which is some stuff that we've already worked on, like the Little Spartans program, which I'm sure we'll talk about in Richfield, where we're making hockey more affordable and accessible. Okay, so now more people are doing it. Now there's going to be athletes that come in there and they're just so athletic, they're going to pick it up really quick, even though they're not doing the year-round thing, and they will be competitive hockey players. So that's kind of some of the things that I think we have to do. But really getting to the parents early seems to be effective. We've had feedback from parents that, hey, kind of felt like I was going down the wrong path, and then I went to your leadership seminar, and now I get it. Like I can see where I was going, and I think I just stopped myself. So thank you. I literally have had emails from parents on that. So it's going to take time. This is a big aircraft carrier. It's been going in the wrong direction for probably 4 decades. So it's not like it's going to turn around even in one. Right. I mean, fully. It's not going to do a 180 overnight. Right. But I do also get the sense that this generation of parents, I mean, we all have young kids, are just not looking to have their schedules be as packed. Like we want to have some more family time, want to have some more relaxed time. And so I think there's maybe more of a market for that, for that argument. Like, hey, yeah, like I don't want my kid at the rink 7 days a week. It sounds awful. Right. When it's this nice out, we have 2 more weeks of nice weather and then it's over. No, we're going to be outside. Yeah.
Do you know someone who could benefit from this episode? If so, please take the time to share it with them. Whether it's an athlete, a coach, a parent, or just someone who loves inspiring stories, we want to get this message out, and we need you to help make that happen.
Well, and always like wanting your kids to have a step in front or like give them the best opportunity, but knowing that the science shows that like them practicing 7 days in a week isn't giving them the best opportunity. Yeah,
so we have to make the argument to parents that the best way to get your kid to fulfill their potential, and I truly believe this, is to do it this way, is to not specialize early, have them play as many sports as possible. And then there is a time when training is very important. And, that's generally going to be around puberty. So it's, somewhere between the onset of puberty, 13 to 15. Males, their peak height velocity is at 14 and a half. Females is at 12 and a half. So there's an argument with girls that you would actually start serious training a year or two earlier than males. And so there is a place for that. So I'm not saying that you don't at some point get kind of serious about it. But what we see at Fortis too, though, is you have kids that are 6, 7, 8. Okay, well, let's say they're 6 and they start up serious training. Well, now they're 16 and they finally are actually possibly, could be trained into something that is called an athlete, and they're gassed. Their eyes are glazing over. They've already done all the things for 10 years pretty much. And they're like, I've just had my whole career doing this. Can I stop?
And what does that serious training look like?
So I think, like let's just take an example. You have a 15-year-old male. That's going to be sprint training, plyometric training, weight room, being in the weight room, technical skills training on the ice or on the soccer field or whatever, right? Where you're actually very deliberately trying to train. So you have free play. You have deliberate free play. Let's say that's where we organize a small game, 3v3 soccer or whatever. And then you have deliberate practice where you're really dialed in and you're correcting things as quickly as possible. On the extreme end of that deliberate practice, if you're working with like a college or pro athlete, I love this. It's like whenever I get to work with an athlete of that level, you just feel like the best coach in the world because you tell them one thing and the next rep, they do that one thing. And it's small stuff. Move your top hand out a little bit on the shot or
they're coachable.
Yeah. Get a little more ankle dorsiflexion when you skate. I mean, they're very coachable, like on the extreme end of it. And then you take like a second grader and it's like, they can input some, but you're really just spinning your wheels if you're trying to throw that much at them at that age. And so, I kind of look at it like there's certain skills that you can learn at any point in a given age range. Let's say like stopping in hockey. I get this one a lot. Like, oh, my kid's in first grade, he can't stop. I'm like, okay, like just keep skating, keep playing. And third grade, if he can't stop, I guarantee you if he's been just playing hockey travel or even just playing lots of pond hockey, I can probably teach him in about 2 minutes. Without all the frustration and maybe crying and all this stuff. So like, why push it if he's not ready? If you do everything you should, which is just building this athletic base, having him play pond hockey, having him let's say he's in his association, he gets to play a couple jamborees, he does his practices. I'll be able to teach him deliberately super fast because he'll have the base. But a lot of times I see it where we're trying to force it early and I'm like, for what? It's, I have to spend 10 hours to try to teach the kid to stop. I can do it in 5 minutes in 2 years.
Right.
It's just like, give it, like, who cares?
On top of the burnout, talk a little bit more about like the prone of injury just for the specialization before they are hitting puberty.
Oh, for sure.
In the high school.
That's gotten really bad. That's the worst part. And that
you got to see this firsthand every day.
Yes. Oh, I see it all the time. The amount of bilateral hip surgeries on kids that are 14 and 15 right now, that is going up, and it's crazy that's even a thing that even happens. I don't know anyone that I played with when I was in high school that had hip surgery, and I hear about them constantly now. Like so and so just had hip surgery. I'm like, he's like a freshman in high school. How is that possible? Those are going up. L5 stress fractures are off the charts in terms of the percentage and the amount of them that are happening. We're seeing at one local youth hockey association here last year, I think they had 8 kids with L5 stress fractures that could not try out. And they play hockey. And so if you overdo hockey, during this there's a period of time when it's really dangerous. And so basically that's when a kid is going through peak height velocity. So they're growing, their skeletal system will take off. Their muscular system is going to take some time to catch up. It'll take about, let's say 18 months on average or so before that maturation rate is going to hit roughly where the skeletal system is. And so the ligaments and the muscles, it's not your system, your body cannot handle that stress now. And that's where I see a lot of the overuse injuries, whether it's a stress fracture in the low back is a common one, or in hockey, we're seeing the hips, a lot of hip issues,
and
pelvic alignment issues.
Is that because skating is such an unnatural movement compared to somebody running? Or
Yep. Yeah, and if you skate, if you play competitive hockey through, let's say, high school, and then you go play junior hockey, the percentage likelihood that you have some fraying in the labrum in the hip is like 90+%. So you're going to have it. And I think there's statistics in other sports like football and whatnot where the hip joint is just going to get worn down. It's just like, it's just the way it is. But hockey can be particularly difficult on it. You can play and not be symptomatic as long as there's a few things that your glutes are activating correctly and your body's aligned properly, whatever. But if you just overdo it constantly at these young ages, when you're growing, that's when you're going to start getting some of that tearing that's going to need to get repaired. And long term, it's like, okay, is that athlete going to be better then at 22 when they're trying to play professional hockey, or 24 if they just had some clean hips, or would it be better to have them having surgeries? Obviously, like, having the surgeries is going to reduce probably the amount of time that they can play. And if they can make money playing, then those surgeries cost not only a lot of money probably at the time, but they also could be costing that athlete, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in revenue that they could, or income that they could have been making, because they could have been playing 2 or 3 extra years. Just being healthy is like super important to a professional athlete. It's like the most important thing, so that they can keep playing and keep making money.
So for a young kid not at that puberty level yet, what is the amount that they should be playing? Like, or what's too much?
That's a good question. My personal recommendation, there's some good studies on this, but you basically want about 3 months out of the year off from a main sport to not have it be considered early specialization. So if you're 10 and you're playing hockey for 11 months out of the year, you're specializing. Because some people will be like, well, we took a month off. It's like, a month? The kid's 10. You're going to need a little bit more than a month off. I count that as weeks. The way I recommend this in my parent seminars is a week counts as a block of time. So 2 days off doesn't count. You can't just add single days up. But if you have a full week off, you can have that off. You might have, let's say, 6 weeks off during the summer in week chunks. You might have most of August, let's say July 4th off, the first week of June off. Okay, you can count that as 6 weeks.
Okay,
and then
it
you
doesn't have to be consistent.
I don't think it has to be. I think it's hard for it to be like a full 3 months for a lot of parents. Even though it shouldn't be, but I think if you can at least get full weeks off up to 3 months of time in a calendar year, that then I would say you're not specializing early. And again, also not to the detriment of other sports as well. So that's another definition of it. If you're playing so much hockey that you can't do anything else, then you're specializing early. But about 3 months off would be good. Yeah. And the funny thing is, as you get older, I mean, gosh, our college guys, they all take a couple months off after the season. Yeah. Mandatory. You have to. If you don't, you will burn out, and the body will burn out, because they start to get, they're in their 21, 22, 23. Their bodies can't handle playing a full season and then just going right into training. They take a couple months off. And then when they skate in the off season, they skate 2, maybe 3 days a week tops. Yeah. And a lot of times I'm talking to parents who are having their athletes skate 6, 7 days a week in the off season. And, a lot of times that's having negative effects on their stride mechanics and other things as an athlete. Like, they're getting burnt out physically, or they're what'll happen typically too is they'll start to skate higher and higher up because they're so tired by that, third skate, second skate of the day, or whatever it is, that they can't get into a nice low flexion, low position. So
yeah, it's like if you're skating 3-4 times a day, like that's too much for anybody.
Yeah, well, that happens.
Yeah,
I
remember.
We have kids skating 3 times a day right now, and it's not seeming to stop parents. Some of them. I mean, it seems like it's moving in a better direction. There are more and more parents looking to have the kids have time off, which is good. Yeah. So hopefully the pendulum's swinging in the correct direction.
It's kind of that fear of missing out. Like, I remember playing on my showcase team for Eastview in the summer, but then I was on like 2 other AAA teams, because it was like, if somebody asked me to play, I better do it. It was hard to turn those things down.
Well, as a player, that's where some of this FOMO is coming from too, because the kids are going to their parents and they're going, well, my friends so and so are going to this tournament, and I just got asked to be on the team. The coach just asked me, ran into him at the rink. You have to draw the line. You have to say no a lot in order to have that proper relationship between volume and training and everything else that you have going on in your life as a family too.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's dive into the Fortis. What is Fortis? And then a little bit about like the leadership academy that you're teaching the athletes to be the best leaders.
Yeah. The Fortis Academy is a holistic sports performance training group. So we do everything from gym training to sports nutrition, leadership, character development. We also work with associations and help consult on just like systemically, how do they put their association together? How do they, on the hockey side, how do you how do you do ice? What's the best way of doing ice to make sure that as many kids can play as possible, but also to train them in the most effective ways too. And then we do skills training too. So, and that's mainly in hockey, but we also do it in lacrosse and a little bit in soccer, where if you want to do a private skills training session or a small group or a camp or clinic, we'll do that. And then the last couple of things is we do sports day camps. That's where kids come over to our facility at Champions Hall. They get dropped off at 8:45, picked up at 3:15, and they play sports the entire day. So it's a mix of free play and deliberate structure. So they have, they might play handball for 30, soccer for 30, football for 30, and floor hockey for 30. Then they'll go get lunch, and then they do a little STEM activity, and then they rinse, repeat. They'll do another 4 different activities or sports where they can just set up their games and play, take a break whenever they want to. And then we'll do a little bit of time throughout the day too, where it's just go play whatever game you want. And it's always amazing to me how those kids, they go the entire day, and they are training for 6 hours. They'll be soaking wet. We've had some parents that come in and go, "Did you shower?" Like, no one showers here. They're just wet from all the sweat. And then, they go home and they want to keep playing. And so they're becoming better athletes when they do that. So we do that. And then the last thing we do is some of our grow the game efforts, which I'm sure we'll talk about with with the little Spartans and a couple other things. But so that's what we do. Just the whole aspect of the continuum of working with an athlete. We do it. In the gym, it includes all different types of training modalities, from yoga to speed training to weightlifting, resistance training. So we do all of that. On the leadership side, we started up something called Fortis Leaders a few years ago. That is where we come in and we work with associations. We do parent seminars. Those include information on long-term athletic development, because I think when you understand how athletic development works, you just don't worry about how good your third grader is. When you know the science, it's not that big of a deal. If your little second grade soccer team, my kids both do like rec soccer right now, there is technically like positions, but not really. It's basically a glob that just moves around. Literally, I think last year, my boys group, he's 6. This past year, they're playing, and then one kid just started playing tag mid-game, like just tagged someone, and they just started. And then he looked at him, and they just started playing tag. Another couple of kids just started wrestling each other during the game. And for some of the parents, I can tell it's like really hard for them to digest what's happening. And for me, I'm like, just because I study this, I'm like, this is great. Go ahead, keep playing. Obviously try to get them to figure it out, and you're trying to be supportive and encouraging, but. So we'll go in and we'll do the parent seminars. We also do coach seminars, because that's where, the biggest influence in youth sports is going to be the coach. And having as many of them on board with this philosophy as possible is really important. And then we also do athlete seminars. So we bring, 20 athletes together and talk about leadership and what they can do. We try to make it as tangible and actionable as possible, so they actually write out things that they're going to do starting the next day to help with leadership issues on their team. And then we have a curriculum that we give to coaches for them to teach to the players. They're easy 5-minute quick hit lessons that they can do throughout an entire season. The idea here is to basically saturate the experience, which I think, we still have this a little bit. There are some coaches in youth associations where you can call around and right away, like, oh yeah, Coach so-and-so is an amazing coach. Oh, why? Well, he just really cares about the kids, them as people, blah, blah, blah. And so we're trying to basically democratize that as much as possible, so that every coach, whether you're drinking from a fire hose at your day job and showing up almost 5 minutes late to practice or whatever, you just have a curriculum that you can use to help teach some of these ideas and concepts. And so, it's easy. It's easy. It's simple for them to do. And I think pretty important. And then the last thing is we have a pin system. And this one I love. I'm actually doing it with my boys' soccer team, because I'm coaching his soccer team. I got practice tonight. And so there's pins for persevering, encouraging others, teamwork, hard work, humility, servant leadership. And so I for them, they're 6 years old. So I have a hardworking pin, a chop wood pin for hard work, a teamwork pin, and then one other one, encouragement. And I told them, hey guys, these are the 3 values that I'm just keeping it simple. These are the 3 that I want you guys to be focused on. And if you do a really good job, you might do a great job and might not get a pin, because I'm not going to give everyone a pin every time. but I'll award you with a pin if you do a really good job over time. And so we had our first practice the other day, and it was really cool to like hand those out and just see I was walking off the field then, and one of them already had it on his shirt, and the dad looked at me like, this is awesome. He loves that. He really loves that,
Especially boys, they just want,
yes.
not that girls don't, but
yes,
like they want to be rewarded somehow. And it's hard to just be like, we'll get you a Powerade after their bag of chips, that they take pride in that for sure.
They do. And it's one of those things then where I am reinforcing it every day that I'm with this group of 10 or 11 boys. Every day I'm going to be talking about working hard, encouraging others, and being good teammates every day, because it's not like they're going to get it. It's not going to sink in on day one. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have to do across the youth sports spectrum, is it has to saturate that experience.
Do you do some of those similar techniques for your staff at Fortis? Like how you encourage them to live out the mission and everything?
We certainly try to. Yeah. We talk a lot about like relationship building, and like with our athletes and our philosophy and our why. And we want all of our coaches to get to know like a couple things, right? Get to know everyone's name. Like that's a big one for us. Get to know everyone's name. And I'm so impressed with our coaching staff and their ability to do that. We have a volleyball group that comes in. There's 150 volleyball players. Our coaches that are with them on a consistent basis know almost all of their names. Mm-hmm. We work with a soccer club. There's about 250 soccer players, and the coaches that work with them on a consistent basis know their names. And that's like just one really kind of small part. But then we try to like build it in to everything we do. So as an example, kids are on their phones and social media and screens all the time, right? And so doing anything digitally, to me, has it's lots of eyeballs but low impact in terms of like, if I want to get a message across to an athlete, I'm going to sit down with them one-on-one. Mm-hmm. And so we do that too, goal setting meetings, and a lot of our coaches do that, just this individual mentoring time. But we'll also send letters. So if there's we were working with a soccer group, like I said, about 250 kids, and we were just like, who's working really hard? And who are we really thankful is working hard and being positive and whatever. And like, okay, we identified some of the kids, and then the lead trainers for those groups sent them notes, just a like quick handwritten in the mail, so that you're going to remember that. Yeah. Like that message is getting across. And we actually do that for all of our college and pro athletes too, because we
more
want
than a text or an email or
yes, yeah, or a Snapchat, God forbid. I think it gets across a little bit better, but trying to just infuse it into the fabric of everything that we do within Fortis is important.
So everything that you have for your leadership academy, for coaches, parents, athletes, like, did you come up with all that, or did you have somebody that showed you how to do this, or where do you get all of that curriculum from?
One would be from kind of experience, trial and error. So, I mean, starting in 2008 or 9, I started doing training in 2005, but I think by 2008 we were doing leadership lessons on a relatively frequent basis. And so we just find a quote online and just go for it. Try it. Like, hey guys, here's a quote. We're going to read it. And we were kind of brazen at the time and didn't think we might look stupid or anything, even though I'm sure we did when we would do it. And we just kind of see how the kids react. And I was always surprised with how well they did. I wasn't expecting them to have such good comments and ideas and concepts. And so that kind of took that down for me, because I think for a lot of adults, and I was kind of a kid at the time, I was just out of high school, and I started doing training when I was 15. So I never had this thought that they're my students and I'm the teacher. It was kind of like, I'm kind of the same age. So I'm showing them what to do, but I have to treat them with a lot of respect. And so that over time, that started, we started just building out more and more lessons. And those built up over, let's say, 10 years. And then more recently, when we really codified that curriculum, there's been a lot of, different ways we've been able to tackle it, right? We do sports leadership scenarios where we just have a scenario and then what would you do? Here are a couple prompts for the coach. And then reading a lot of leadership books and, or just even sports stories, right? And kind of getting ideas from that and then just codifying it into one booklet. And we worked as a team to put a lot of that together as well.
I mean, it probably took you a lot of time. Like I have some of your books and I've read through them, and it's like that's a lot of effort.
It was yeah. I say it's like at least 10 years of experience kind of being codified into one booklet. And then there's 6 different booklets essentially, right? So you have different curriculum from if you start in 4th grade through 9th. So every lesson's different throughout all of those books. You don't repeat lessons throughout those 6 years.
Hey listeners, we want to take a quick moment to tell you about the InSports Foundation. At InSports, we believe every child deserves the chance to play sports regardless of their financial situation. Our mission is to provide free camps, scholarships, and team sponsorships to reduce the cost of sports and help more kids get in the game. As we all know, through sports, kids can learn valuable life lessons, stay active, and maintain their mental well-being. To support our mission and help us give more kids the opportunity to play, visit insportsfoundation.org and consider making a donation today. Together, we can make a difference. So you mentioned a little bit about the squirts all the way up to professional players. Let's touch a little bit on like the mites and what we're doing with Richfield youth hockey and bringing hockey back to Richfield.
Yeah.
Like
Super fun.
This is a big deal because Richfield used to be the hotbed of hockey in Minnesota. I mean, the Hendricksons and like everything that Richfield accomplished is like incredible.
Yep.
And then to be gone, like it was dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was no Richfield youth hockey for how many years?
8, maybe?
8 years.
Wild.
Yep.
And now, just within this last year, and partnering with InSports and Fortis, like you guys have done an incredible job of bringing that community to the rink and starting the Little Spartans.
Yeah.
Touch a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, the partnership with you guys in InSports has been awesome. And I'm like super excited about this upcoming year where we're trying to double the numbers. We're doing two sheets or 2 hours back to back. But the idea kind of came about because Chris Wybe, who's the rink manager over at Richfield, had been running very low key little Spartans kind of learn to skate program. A lot of rinks have these sort of learn to skate programs, but he really wanted to get more on the hockey side and like start building that program back. And we just opened up a gym in the Richfield Ice Rink. So there was a lot of interaction between us and the rink manager, Chris. And at one point, we're just like, well, you know, we want to have more hockey players here in Richfield. That'd be good, right? To have more at the Richfield Ice Arena that are from Richfield. And why can't we? And we kind of wanted to prove, too, that, you know, hockey can get stuck in its ways a little bit, that, you know, well, there's just no one in Richfield that wants to play, or, you know, the economics or the demographics just are not friendly to hockey. So there's just no way we can have hockey. It was funny. We put it together, and last year it went directly through the community education website, and our operations manager, Stephanie, was talking to someone in the department over there, and they were like, yeah, we've been trying to find hockey in Richfield. We can't find anything, you know, because they're Googling Richfield hockey. And, you know, you guys all have young kids. You're kind of drinking from a fire hose. It's really hard to just, you know, search for something that doesn't appear to be there. And, you know, there is technically Richfield players that want to do travel hockey because we're not a traveling program at the moment. They would go to Jefferson, but it's really hard to find that. Like when you Google it or whatever, you're like, okay, well, this is for Jefferson. Where's the Richfield stuff? And so it's hard for people to see that connection. And then there's also just the fact that playing hockey is expensive. It is not a cheap sport, like pretty much every sport now. And we thought, well, let's just see what happens if we make it $100 and maybe truncate the season a little bit. And the first year, I think we had 60 kids registered. And that of those kids, so they could come from anywhere, 25 lived in the Richfield School District. About another 20 to 25 lived basically in South Minneapolis. So if they're going to play hockey, they would want to be in Richfield. And so that's a hurdle that the program will have to discuss and figure out how to work through. Because if you live by Lake Nokomis, going to Parade Ice Rink might be really difficult for you, whereas Richfield's right there. And so it proved that there's kids we had a lot of we had families that couldn't speak English where their kids came and play. And they had a blast. And I think they're going to be great ambassadors for the sport and show that if we make it, well, the other thing we did is consistent times. So the schedule for next year is already set. So you can go online and you can just see, there are my times. It's not going to be Saturday morning at 9, the next week, Saturday at 2. It's really hard to schedule especially with a longer season like hockey is, it's really hard to schedule. So
Well, especially if you need like family time. We've signed Braxton up for so many things, and like we don't find out the time until like the week before, and you can't schedule anything. So having that consistency, nice for the kids, but also nice for the families to know what to expect.
That's one thing that we want to promote with the associations too, because it is possible, and hockey people will tell you it's not, but it is possible to put travel teams on relatively consistent ice times. Not necessarily the time or the hour, that's very difficult, but the day is possible. You have to get creative. You have to have the JV team going at 6 a.m. once a week, or the varsity team once a month, or whatever, right? You do have to move maybe the squirts go once a month before school, each team once, to kind of open up the ice, but you can do it, and it is possible. And if we do that, we make things more consistent, more family friendly, more affordable, or at least have affordable options. We're going to have way more kids involved in hockey. And then if we can do it in hockey, then I feel like any other sport, most other sports will be a lot easier. Because even for myself, I don't know about you guys, but like getting the hockey equipment, I mean, I know I'm in the hockey world, but I was like a deer in headlights I just want someone else to do this. This is a lot.
Well, especially for a parent that's never played hockey, and then they're getting their kid into playing, and be like, what do I do?
It's a list of 30 things I need.
Yeah.
Like, really? It's a lot. And then getting it all on is a whole nother battle too.
If you've never done it before, or you don't know anybody, that's a huge hurdle.
It's
but just making it accessible to everybody. And a big shout out to Anthony Walsh, who helps run the program, and his book Hockey is for Everybody, that literally anybody can come play hockey. And as the In Sports Foundation, we're just super excited to continue that collaboration and continue growing this program, so we can become Richfield Youth Hockey and make it an association and bring it back.
That's the goal. Yeah, we have to keep recruiting like we did last year, and just, if we double it this year and then do it again, it won't actually take that long till we'll have enough kids
spread quick
to be able to play.
I just thought it was so cool. And we met with Stephanie and Sports Engine to set the website up, and she's like, we need English and Spanish. And it was like, I've never heard of that for hockey, and that's pretty cool.
Yep. There's a huge Hispanic or Spanish speaking population in Richfield. And so being able to have that's incredibly important to reach a pretty sizable percentage of the kids in the city.
Love that.
Yep.
What else? We touched on a lot of topics, and I'd love to talk a little bit more about like our Play It Forward campaign on how we continue to grow the game of hockey. Not only Richfield, but you're also doing other just like pond hockey programs, and talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've done some. We didn't do this last year. Didn't work with the ice situation outside.
Outdoor ice was not ideal.
Suboptimal to say the least. I think there was like 2 days all year you could actually get clean ice.
We did that Joy of the Pond event.
Yeah, that's right.
It was the coldest day of the year probably.
Yes. But I think there's so many different avenues that we could go down here. But I think Joy of the Pond, that concept of just letting kids go out and play, it reduces so many of the barriers too. And like, it's free, it's outdoor ice. It's where so many of the great hockey players in history have basically learned how to play. There's a lot of value to it from a training perspective. And when we did it 2 years ago, we called it Joy of the Pond, and we were able to do it relatively frequently. And we went to Creek Valley one time. It was a Tuesday night, I think, and we were there from 5 or 4 to 7 or whatever. I think it was one of our bigger ones. We had like 42 kids show up that kind of knew about it because of us. There were only 3 or 4 other kids out on the sheet, on the rink. And so I was thinking, okay, if we weren't here, it's basically nothing. And so it's kind of this like negative feedback loop where, okay, I go to the rink, I go to go play pond hockey, or I'm going to go to the baseball diamond in the summer and just mess around. Well, no one else is there to play with you. And so that's something that I think we have to kind of try to reverse. One of the reasons my wife and I, we moved just a few blocks down the street, and we didn't want to move from our neighborhood because we have a very unique neighborhood. We have about 40 kids within 2 to 3 blocks who play outside. Our kids play outside every single day when it's nice out. And they're running around, they're biking, they're They're going into different people's backyards to do trampoline and all this different stuff. And it's pretty idyllic, and it's something that a lot of the country doesn't have. And so just even getting that, fostering that environment, it's one of those things that I'm hoping, I actually have some ideas for you guys on that too. I'd love to see like neighborhood sports boxes. I want to get one in mine for the whole neighborhood. It's just, hey, anyone can use it. You open up the box and there's soccer balls and there's, maybe mini collapsible nets. There's foxtail, which is a cool little game that our kids like to play. Things that they'd have to be low volume ideally, but having this sports box that you could put in cul-de-sacs in different areas and neighborhoods, and then
parks,
and then it's free gear to go use. Just put it back when you're done. Obviously, you're going to have some that'll get just taken or lost, but something like that to help revive that concept and get parents on board with this idea of just letting your kids get outside, get them off screens. It's so important at the youngest ages to have them playing as much as possible.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I have seen that at some parks in Egan where they've got like those basketball, it's not like a basketball court, but they have like 10 different hoops, and they've got
sweet.
different ways to bank a shot, and there's like a bunch of challenges, but then they have a box of basketballs that anybody can use.
Yep.
They say, put it back when you're done, but it just gives that easy access.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of it's just like purposing the space. Like, hey, this space here, this cul-de-sac is for you to be able to play. Okay, because there's stuff here for you to play with, right? And just having people start to associate it that way, I think is really important.
Love that idea.
Yeah. Yep.
Super cool.
Yeah.
We are doing Joy of the Pond Might Jamboree again this year.
Let's do it.
TBD the date, but coming soon. So
out of Viking Lakes again.
Yeah.
blow that up.
That looked amazing last year, and you just get some better weather, and it's going to be.
It'll be a better winter.
It's got to be, right?
Yeah.
Last year was way too nice.
We're ready for some pond hockey.
Yeah. I'm ready for it to be cold. Get some ice.
What's kind of your next goals for Fortis? Is it impacting more kids? Is it growing geographically, or do you guys feel like you're in a good spot where you're at?
We feel like we're in a good spot. I mean, the last year we meet as a team every year to just do basically like the most macro strategy meeting that you possibly can. Just where are we at? Where are we trying to go? This year, our big focus was just on solidifying our processes and making sure every training session we do is as good as it possibly can be. Mm-hmm. And so, that's not an easy task. Mm-hmm. And I'm probably pretty critical of myself and just how we run things. So I'm constantly like, okay, how can we improve that training session, or how can we improve the experience for the athletes coming into our gym? So we're not looking to grow outside of just that organic growth that sort of comes from, people coming through our website or natural connections through our network, at least for a little bit here.
Yep.
What we're looking to grow more would be our coach education, our leadership program, our ability to help associations grow the game. Those efforts are really fulfilling and something that we want to do more of in the future. I
know we were talking at one point about that college mentorship program. Is that something that you guys did?
We did a couple years ago.
Yep.
We did not do it this summer. We had just done it for free. It did not cost anything.
And what did that kind of look like? What did that?
It was we put together 5 conversation decks for our mentors, our college athletes, which had basically a list of a ton of questions and some concepts and ideas to be talking about. So it ranged from like training and nutrition to mental health and social media. There were a variety of different concepts.
And what were the ages of the kids that they were?
Generally high school. So it was like college to high school, where they can really, there's a big impact that could be made at that with those ages.
Totally.
And then the athletes, our college athletes, met with their mentees 3 to 5 times to go through those conversation decks throughout a year. And it was cool. I mean, we had some of our high school athletes with their college mentors are still in touch. So that was really cool. And that's something we'd love to figure out how to do more of in the future as well. Yeah. Sports, it's really fun to make or to help an athlete along their journey in sport, to help them get better at it. But at the end of the day, if that's all we did, even with the best athletes that we have, there's still a little bit of a hole there then a little bit. Like what I love so much about working with our college and professional athletes is that, they're older, so this is easier, right? But you really get to know each other, and you develop, trust with each other and a relationship and a friendship. So that's really important to I can't wait till they have their own families and I get to meet their kids, and their kids are in sport. I'm going to see them at the rink or at the soccer field or whatever. That's really important to us.
Mm-hmm. What would you say if you were to look back on your sports career playing hockey growing up, if there was like one life lesson where you're like I'm so glad that happened to me and that's impacted me in whatever way. And you're in the sports industry, so you see it all the time, but I'm sure you do a lot of other administrative work that wouldn't matter if it was in sports or a different type
Correct.
of business.
Yes.
But is there like a key life lesson that you feel like I would never have gotten this without playing sports growing up?
Yeah, I think there's a couple. I think one thing with sport that's different than almost anything else, and especially if you're in a physical sport, hockey, football, lacrosse, soccer, the person on the other side of the field is like, they're not trying to hurt you, hopefully, but like they're coming after you and they want to beat you 100%. And sometimes they're going to, and then you have to accept that graciously. And I think that's a really good lesson that sport teaches that very few other avenues teach. Like,
right.
You can all be taking a math test, but no one's trying to like rip the pencil out of your hand while you're taking it.
Right.
And that's something that I think helps you become more resilient. And generally that relates to the second concept, which is this idea of like persevering through adversity. So whether you get injured, which is at some point you're going to probably roll an ankle at least, or you're going to be out for a little bit of time, and just being able to mentally handle that adversity and then continue to push forward is something that I think sports teaches probably better than almost anything else for athletes. And so that's something that I feel like, if I have a problem, sports taught me to look at that problem and go, okay, what are the solutions? Like, what do I need to be doing? List those out and then start going, right? Okay, I want a better shot. I need to shoot pucks. I need to maybe get some advice a few times from someone. I might need to do a lesson. Boom, boom, boom. Here's what I need to do. Set my goals and then go after it. And so, yeah, that's what I would say are probably two of the main ones.
I'm glad nobody goes after you on the golf course, though.
Yeah.
Golf
is mentally very different.
Yes, you're battling
yes.
with yourself.
Yes.
It's a different type of perseverance.
Yeah. That teaches a lot.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. I can't
Definitely.
do it. Yeah.
Good stuff. No, I think that's a wrap.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you so much for coming on and just all the partnership between Little Spartans and all the other things that we've done together, and we look forward to growing that. And
same. And doing it in other spots, right? There's so many communities now, not just in hockey, lacrosse, other sports where they're drying up. The associations don't have enough kids playing, and I think we're onto something where we can go in there together and we can show them, here's how you can grow this game, here's how you can get more kids playing, and that's a pretty cool mission.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Let's keep helping kids get in the game.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Athletes in Sports podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please take the time to follow, subscribe, like on all the channels. This is how we can continue to bring these inspiring stories to you and make a bigger impact to get more kids into the game.